Today, I'm going to talk about how the Tudors used art as propaganda. So the Tudor monarchs inserted symbols and icons in their art to further their agenda and to enhance their public image as rulers of England. So today is going to be an historical journey where I'll show examples of how they used the power of imagery to market themselves as the rightful rulers of the country, and in the case of Elizabeth, to eventually portray herself as a divine protectress. I will discuss the Tudor monarchs, starting from Henry VII, who used very few symbols in his portraits, at least the one we'll see today, to Elizabeth I, who had many different faces, many different symbols in the art throughout her reign. So most of the examples we're going to look at will be portraits, but I'm going to start with a symbol that embodies not only the Tudors, but eventually came to represent or embody England itself. And this is the Tudor rose. So Henry VII ended the War of Roses, uniting the House of York and the House of Lancaster. He needed a symbol. He needed a way to convey to the masses what he achieved and where and his position in their country, showing he stopped the bloodshed and united these houses and that he is the rightful ruler. So hence he produced the Tudor rose. It's seen up here in the upper right corner. You could see it's the red rose of the House of Lancaster on the outside, and in the center is the white rose of York. It's lived beyond, the symbol has lived beyond the Tudor monarchy, and it's seen lots of different places in Britain, and even as recently as 2008, it was on coins minted by that country. We're also going to see examples of the rose in some of the portraits. Here's one, the pelican portrait that was in our lecture notes of Elizabeth, and we could see the Tudor rose right here at the top upper left corner, even with the crown on top, connecting her with her her grandfather, Henry VII. So let's go back to his imagery. Now here's the portrait of him that was in our notes, and probably the best known one. Don't see a lot of images or symbols, except down here in the lower corner, we do see that he's holding this rose. What I'm showing here on the right beside it is an infrared image of this portrait. So it's showing what's hidden underneath of it. And it's kind of interesting because we could see, where the artist started, what are some of the hidden details. And what struck me was the difference in the expression of his face. So the portrait that we see, he seems to have this smile, a softer look in his face, which isn't so apparent underneath. But notice that while his gaze, he's looking at us, he is shown a bit in profile, which was the natural way of showing people in that time period. That wasn't the case with his son, Henry VIII. Now, this is a very well-known portrait of Henry VIII. We see that he's looking face forward at us. He's got this powerful, swaggering stance. His legs are apart. His arms are at his hips. He looks powerful. He looks athletic, very thick calves. Here's his codpiece that's thrusting forward, showing his virility, his ability to sire sons and ensure the succession of the throne. Now, this was a rather controversial, scandalous stance on Henry's part, because this was usually the frontal view was usually used to depict Christ, not mortals like Henry VIII. So in some sense, this is sort of conveying he's like Christ or divine. This was a copy of a mural done by Hans Holbein. And here's a copy of the mural, actually. And it was in the Privy Chamber in Whitehall, and it was destroyed. But here we have left to right, we have Henry VIII. We see the same, stance, legs apart, codpiece in view. Here's his father, Henry VII, his mother, Elizabeth of York, and one of his wives, Jane Seymour. So notice that these three, everybody except Henry, is looking at a sort of in profile, whereas Henry is looking forward right at us. And I thought it was interesting that the women were still their eyes were not looking towards us, unlike, Henry the Seventh. They're like off to the side and sort of in the background. Now, like father, like son, we see the same sort of imagery, the same stance that we had with Henry VIII in this portrait of Edward VI. So we have a similar colored outfit on that he's wearing, frontal, face forward looking at us, codpiece in view. His hands are and arms are the same way Henry had them. And we can kind of take a peek here underneath his cloak at Edward's legs and his calves, right? He's looking like he has muscular calves like his father, which I don't think he probably had because young boys like this usually wouldn't have really these muscular legs like we see here. Here's another portrait of Edward. Maybe this is a little bit more like what we would expect in a traditional portrait. He's looking in profile. This is like how you would see them on a coin. We have here in Latin alter ego, secondary personality, or maybe secondary role. Um, we have other symbols. Here's the roses again, the red rose and the white rose. And he's holding in his hand the red rose, maybe connecting him to the House of Lancaster and his grandfather. Up in the upper left corner, we have the aspect of the divine. This is the god of the sun god, um, passing rays, approval, if you would, power towards Edward here. His front is all lit up by the rays of this divine sun. Now, after Edward, of course, is Mary the First. Mary was the first female monarch of England to rule in her own right, so not as the wife of the king. Edward, of course, as we saw, could use the same symbolism or imagery as his father, Henry VIII. But Mary, she needed to create a new iconography, a new symbolization of her female authority. So let's take a look at how that's apparent in this portrait of her. So first of all, she has this sort of stern look. She's shown in profile, but her eyes are looking towards us. And if you remember Henry VIII or the Henry VII, his portrait, she looks very similar to that gaze and her face. In her right hand, she has a red rose. This could symbolize the House of Lancaster, again, like Edward, connecting her to her grandfather. Or in her case, it could also refer to her Catholic Spanish roots, uh, because the red rose is also known to symbolize the Virgin Mary. So maybe a play on her name too. So symbolizing different, several things at once. And then here in her left hand, at first I thought maybe it was a scepter or something, but I think maybe looking at it, it might be the seal of her office, her seal, giving her the authority to, make laws and so on. And then here she's sitting on this throne-like chair, reminiscent of the portrait of Pope Julius II. What I find interesting is that she's not covering up the chair. You could really see it's very visible. So it's very visible that this is a throne that she is sitting on. Again, a picture, an image of her authority, even though she is a female. And I haven't quite figured out the expression on her face, but I just find it intriguing and very naturalistic looking. Unlike some of the portraits that we'll see of Elizabeth, like this one, her coronation portrait. I was a bit surprised when I saw that this was dated 1600, around 1600, which was the end of her reign. But here we see this is long after her coronation. She's very young looking, and she has this long flowing hair, very youthful. But let's see what she indeed looked like as a young princess who would be expected to marry, maybe have an advantageous marriage to further the prospects of the Tudor family. In this portrait, we see she looks very feminine, demure. You could tell that she's a woman. She has books that symbolize piety, education, but she, of course, eventually becomes queen. And at that point, she needs to be rebranded. She needs a new look. And this is the earliest surviving portrait of her as the actual queen. And you can see she no longer looks feminine. And in fact, she's very androgynous, looking almost even masculine. And if we didn't see these words here, Elizabeth Regina, you might not even know that this was a female. My first thought is probably a male. So perhaps trying to connect her with the usual male rulers or patriarchy. You can see you can't really see her breasts, her shoulders. You can't really tell again that she's even a woman. But the years go by, and she gives up on marriage. She's in her 40s. At this point, there's several what they call sieve portraits painted of her, and this refers to a story in the Roman mythology, I guess, about the Vestal Virgin Tuccia, where she proved her chastity by carrying water from the Tiber River to the temple in a sieve. Uh, and in this portrait, you can see in the background and in the background of the suitors, Elizabeth's left them behind. Instead, she's concentrating on the empire, the English empire. We have the globe here as a symbol of imperialism, as well as this column. But let's look a little bit more at the details of this column. These show scenes from Virgil's Aeneid, showing the love affair between Dido and Aeneas. That love affair delayed his founding of Rome, the Roman Empire, the same as maybe this searching for suitors delayed Elizabeth's um, founding of the English Empire. And so it's really connecting Elizabeth with the man, with the male, with Aeneas, not Dido. So to continue this idea of Elizabeth as ruling this empire, here's one of the famous Armada portraits. On this side, the left, looking at the portrait, she's got her hand on the globe, like protectively. Here's her crown. The Armada is coming to attack England. Elizabeth stands in their way. She's protecting them from the Spanish, and then here we have she's commanded the seas, the Armada is destroyed. There's other references, symbols of the to the sea, the pearls, as well as this mermaid. Here in this one, she could tell her face looks a little cartoonish, I guess, not very naturalistic. Now she has become the eternal goddess, the divine protectress of England. Here she's shown naturally aged, but she's no longer her hands on the globe. She's literally standing on the world, right? So the globe, the world is here underneath her feet. And she commands the elements. She's got dominion over the sky, the weather, the blue clouds here, the stormy skies on the right-hand side. She is in control and protecting. About 8 years later, she's young again in her portraits. Now she's feminine looking, low cut bodice, flowing curly hair. This is the rainbow portrait. She has this rainbow in her hand showing hope. She radiates light. She's got this divinity, this all-knowing presence. It's kind of interesting if you look right here in this gold part of her cloak. It's got eyes and ears. She's all-knowing. Yet she's got this serpent here that shows wisdom and prudence in how she's going to use this knowledge. So we've seen many different images, symbols, icons of the Tudors, and I'm going to end our journey there with these references, so you could check those out too.